Okay, so we've flat bedded around our neckline. So right where we pinned, all the way around our back neckline, making sure that shoulder seam is an open seam. Also making sure the one underneath is a closed seam, but it's going towards the back. Came up to those little pretty marks we made when I drove down into it. Made sure I got pretty close to that corner all the way around. I followed my marks that I made as best as I could, which meant I had to reverse half a stitch or something sometimes to actually get right in that point. And look what happened here. Tina did an oopsie. She came up to here and she overstepped that corner. Easy fix. Unpick back a few centimetres. Joining stitch, because it's all internal, so you absolutely can do joins. Did a joining stitch and then re-stitched into that corner, got it perfectly, kept going, life is sweet, all the way around to the back, and then did a back tack right at the end to finish him off. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to clip every 2 centimetres, clip. If it was really thick fabric, we would trim back one of our layers as well, but no, why not? Just every 2 centimetres we're clipping. Whoever is stitching at this stage will either need to watch the video. If they ask me, you might get attitude, remember. So clipping. Now I come up to a corner. We've got a corner here. I am clipping right into that corner. If I don't clip right into that corner, I don't know if that's, I don't know. There you go. I can't tell you. See how I clip right into that corner? Without cutting that corner. If I don't clip in close enough to that corner, and I'll show you what happens at the next, or maybe not this one, but I'll show you what happens at the next one. Keep going. When I get to my other side, I'll show you what happens when, so you can see, because then you'll know problem solving if you can see what happens when it's a boo-boo. Okay, center, am I in the right place? Yes, I am. Right into that corner. Not quite enough, a little bit more. And you'll notice that I'm using my snips and not my scissors, because if I use my scissors and accidentally overrun and don't stop in time, I cut through my stitching line. Okay, so I will show you now what happens with a corner that you don't, this corner here. I'm going to snip into it, but I'm not going to snip. See how I'm not quite at my corner? A little bit far away. Keep going for argument's sake. All the way around. Every 2 centimetres. Alrighty, so now let's have a look. When I turn this the right way on my corner, okay, so that's a beautiful corner that I'm just show it so you can see it, that's better. Okay, so can you see that's my corner there, right in that corner? Beautiful and flush and flat, no tucks. Let's have a look at that centre front one. This is my centre front one. Okay, no tucks at all, beautiful flush and flat. Let's have a look at this baby that I haven't quite, this is the one that I haven't quite cut into properly. Let's try and pull it. Okay, I'm trying to get it so you can see it. Alrighty, look at that. There's a little, yep, see there's a little tuck in there because the fabric can't pull around that corner. So if I get my little tuck, if a tuck or a pleat appears in your corner, it means you haven't cut in properly. So go back to it with your snips. Or it might mean that instead of tucking or snipping into the corner, I might have snipped slightly more to one side or the other side. So I might have cut up here, I might have cut down here rather than cutting right into the corner. So now that I've snipped all the way around, I'm going to bluff. Bluff means I'm going to stitch that seam to one side. I'm going to bluff that seam to the facing side. So that seam is facing the facing side, which means it's under here, under the facing. That's my facing, that's where the seam is. I'm going to bluff that seam the whole way around.
Stripes don't match.
Too bad, so sad.
How disappointing that the greens and oranges are matching up.
I know. My biggest mistake was cutting it in a stripe. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why. I should have just cut it in calico and life would have been good. You'll notice what I'm doing too is I'm pulling it apart with my hands as I'm stitching it to get a nice flush seam in the middle so that there's no little underlaps in there. Sorry?
You're not trying to go like you forget to put on the side.
No, it's an edge stitch, so it's 2 mils away.
Yeah.
But it's catching, when you look at it, it's catching the seam to that side. So make sure as I go round, make sure my seam is to my facing side, and then I'm pulling it apart with my fingers to make sure it's a nice flat seam. You could also go to the iron, give it a good iron first and then stitch it. That would be helpful too. But if you, the pulling technique is just as good. Now we're coming up to these corners where we pivot our corners. Make sure, same deal with my facing. Come right up to this corner. Yep, now pivot around. Make sure nothing's caught underneath. Once again, it's that working out with your hands, pulling it, making sure that, and feeling, I'm constantly feeling with both hands to make sure that seam is on the side of my facing. And I'm not stretching it, because easy can stretch it. You don't want to be doing that, because that's going to create coming up to a point. So I'm setting it up so that I can pivot around that point. So I'm not doing this. You'll notice that I'm not doing that and keeping going, because in my facing, I'll get a tuck. That's why I need to pull it out so my facing's out flat. Right up to that corner. Needle down in, pivot all the way around and back up I go. Yep. Did you know? I was wondering what that means. Am I going to get money? Fluff up my nose is what it means. Every single corner I come to, I'm actually going to have to, making sure they've got.
Yeah, they don't want that.
Yep. Because I'm stitching on the side of my facing, so I want my facing to be flat. That's why I'm making sure there's corners in it. Spin him around.
More mobile.
Pull him apart. Oh, I can feel that seam slip the wrong way. Almost hypnotising with those stripes going the wrong way.
It looks like pajamas.
Oh, a little bit, doesn't it? I agree. A little bit pajama-y. Pity it's not flannel, otherwise I could wear them. What I'm actually doing is pulling it apart the whole time I'm working it. Whoopsie, making sure the seam's gone the right way. Back tack at either end. There's your bluff. So now taking him over to the iron and pressing him. So, and I shouldn't have any tucks. All these corners here should be beautiful, flush. Give him a good old press, please. Go for it.
No, you're funny. Very nice.